story starts with a busy city in Korea. It is the Soonyang Group building, which has a current revenue of 300 trillion won with a profit of 30 trillion won or 22 billion USD in profit. The Soonyang Group is a giant conglomerate business with cars and electronics, telecom, heavy industrial, chemicals, fashion, food, and much more. It was a company that reached out in all aspects of business, gaining the title of the best company in Korea. Born in the countryside, the main proto of this story went to a local countryside university. Later passed the entrance exam to get into the Soonyang Group. As a result, his father gave a huge feast even to the extended family members. The Soonyang Group's headquarters had ordered a place in the future strategic planning headquarters, which made the proto overwhelmed. However, the role he got was merely a janitor. In the midst of darkness, we see some men dealing with a person in a construction site. The proto's life wasn't easy as he had to carry out all the dirty jobs for the boss he served. However, the proto didn't give up and studied English along with endless business plans and proposals to increase his knowledge. And soon with this hard work he was promoted and so sought after for every little job, to the point where even the royal family member of the Soonyang Group knew to call up to our proto Yoon Hyunwoo. In these 13 years of serving the group, he has reached a point where he knows all the hidden roots of the royal family better than anyone else by earning their trust. Yoon has currently arrived at an airport with $7 billion of secret funds in his account. He was instructed by one of the family members to stay in Maldives until the investigation ends in Korea and keep their money in his account. Yoon had tried to indirectly deny it, but he was indirectly forced to do so. Exiting the airport, Yoon thought that his life is just getting started now, but suddenly two men approach him asking him about his long trip, as they are his boss's men, which shocked Yoon to the core. He tries to question them, getting to know that they were sent by the president to assist him. This made Yoon very suspicious, as this was a top-secret mission. The two men in black coats grab him by his arm, placing him at gunpoint and threatening him to quietly follow them. Yoon is very furious as he knows that it's the end of his life now, even though he has served them faithfully for the past 13 years of his life. He tries to get a chance to talk to the president but is denied immediately. Yoon yells at them, telling them that then they can call the head and inform him that Yoon will finish his job and go very far away and never appear again in their life, but to please spare his life. But the men in front warn him to stop with his drama and consider his family's life, as they can be next. This sends a chill down his spine as he became completely blank. Yoon could only clench his fists in despair, as he knew that his family wouldn't be spared after he has been dealt with. The car stopped at the end of the cliff and everyone gets down on their foot. Yoon is made to stand at the end of the cliff as he has to accept his fate even after his loyalty and hard work for the group. As he turns back to the men, they point a gun toward him and Yoon meets his end. But wait, what's happening? Yoon is getting reincarnated into a young boy who is traveling in a white car. Yoon is in shock as he opens his eyes to the body of that young boy, visibly shaken by what had happened just a few seconds ago. His mother calls out for him, referring to him as Dojin from the front seat of the car, asking for his well-being, which makes him sweat profusely as he couldn't utter a single word. But just admire his mom, who is a rising actress even though she just did one movie. His father, on the other hand, was a fan who received the passionate courtship and hid her presence from the screen. Oh, Dojin also has a brother who taunts him for acting up while he had fallen asleep. His mother asks him if he had a nightmare, as his expression doesn't look good, but Dojin denies it, stating he was just surprised and not to worry much. His mother feels relieved, telling that she feels a little flustered as he has suddenly become so mature. Little Dojin tries to slip past this awkward moment as he is fully flustered with what has happened to him after all. It is 26th of July, 30 years prior to his death, and is not reincarnated as the youngest son to one of the heirs of the founder of the Soonyang Group, Mr. Jin Yongkil. It was the 10-year-old youngest son who had instructed to get the proto dead in the Maldives. This makes him remember the time he was working for the Soonyang Group and had never met his family, because all the time these people were excluded. Not to mention that they couldn't even lead her around the group because of their marriage. But despite everyone's opposition, when he got married, the head of the group got furious. But the marriage continued due to the child growing inside the mother's womb, following which they were excluded from the family. But all these things look amazing as the rest of the siblings fought like stray dogs for their share in the group, and they could live peacefully from this mess. This also developed a kind of respect in Dojin for his mom and dad, not to forget the fact that he was reincarnated as their son. They arrived at the huge mansion, which made Dojin all starstruck as he didn't think that he would return here. A castle with just 3 buildings in an area of 1,100 acres. The mansion of the founder of the Sunyang Group, who managed all the employees, Jin Yankiel. After the death of the founder, his 2 sons named Jang Namin and Jin Yunki occupied this house, where he joined in with gardening as his first job. He used to come there more often than his own parents' house, and it was his grandfather's birthday today. As they arrived, everyone's attention shifted to them as they started staring and gossiping about them, which made young Dojin very irritated. Dojin knew that other people present there would blatantly ignore them, but simply didn't bother caring about them, which surprised him even more. He entered the mansion's main building with his family, and the rest of the family members started staring at them with scornful eyes. They are Dojin's godfathers and aunts, who are simply waiting for the old man's death to claim the Sunyang Group companies. One of the aunts started yelling at them about being late to the meeting, which made the young Dojin wonder who that woman was. Donjin's father apologized to her, trying to explain to her, but she instantly cut off his statement, trying to belittle them by her words. Dojin suddenly realizes that she is that hag who dated several young men, even frequently switching them at the age of 70. Dojin smirks, recalling her anger issues and his past experiences with her in his mind, but she gets angry, calling out to Dojin for laughing in there. Dojin straightaway tells her that he didn't laugh, but she still yelled at him for lying to her, to which her husband said her to stop it. He tells that they have gathered for something important and not to make such a fuss out of it. She tries to clarify about it, but just then we hear a loud voice of the old man, who wants to know about the person trying to make a commotion in his house. Everyone, including the old woman, is terrified seeing the grandfather in front of them, perfectly dressed in a brown dress. He walks down the stairs to meet all of them, and everyone bows their head to respect the old man. Dojin seems a bit starstruck seeing the legend of Sunyang standing in front of him. A person who can instill fear is all of his children because of his wealth. The fear of losing to inherit the wealth from their dad, as the other sibling might take away. The feat that they might not be able to maintain their name and reputation as a member of the family. The old man puts up his gangster look along with his sharp gaze, which even the main proto had never experienced. Dojin's mom and dad greet the old man, who looks at them, and Dojin's brother, who is hiding behind his mother in fear of the old man. Dojin is standing still, giving no fucks about the old man, knowing that his brother would be scared as he was the child within his mother's womb, to which the old man couldn't oppose their marriage. But Dojin's attention is suddenly grabbed by the death stare of his grandfather, which instills fear within him. This kinda makes the little Dojin scared of the old man. But the old man becomes all cheerful in an instant as he calls out to him as his precious kid, asking him why didn't he visit him more often. The little Dojin gets dumbfounded about what bullshit is the old man talking about. The old man gets closer to Dojin, patting his head and telling him that he has a present for the little Dojin and whether he is curious about it or not. Dojin could barely speak something to the old man. But what's more interesting was that everyone was staring at them, including his mom and dad. The little Dojin couldn't understand why is the old man being so kind to him. A little later, the old man celebrates his birthday along with all the guests present at the party. Everyone greets happy birthday to the old man, including his uncles and his cunning redhead aunt. However, Dojin's father seemed very gloomy along with his elder brother. But suddenly Dojin heard someone asking his mother to put some more food on their plate. When he turned around to check, he saw his mother serving the guests. This cunning redhead is the culprit, asking his mother to serve the guests. Oh, other aunts are joining this drama. They are trying to boss around his mother to serve the guests, even though they stand by ideally chatting with the guests. But he suddenly remembers the morning when his mother dressed him up and showed affection towards him, making him feel special. But these ants are not stopping ordering his mother, which makes the little Dojin boil up in rage as he tries to endure, promising that he will make sure that his mother is treated properly someday. He sees that his grandfather is enjoyed with his close associates with a drink in his hand. We get to know that the old man had bought him a big horse toy. This made Dojin think whether the horse was the gift, but more than that, the old man seems very nice to him even though he threw away Dojin's father away. It was a forced marriage, but even then he indulges in being nice to his grandkid. Since the proto is in this reincarnated body, he thinks of testing it out. Dojin calls out to his grandfather, telling him that he likes real horses more than the plastic ones. This shocks the old man. Dojin tells that he likes a real car more than a toy car, and he doesn't want to play with boats in the bathtub but instead likes real boats floating in the sea. This makes the old man give him that death stares with nothing to say, sending chills down his spine, regretting his speech a moment ago. The old man tries to be self-aware of Dojin by asking if he knows what real means. Dojin doesn't hesitate for a second and spontaneously answers that it's the one his grandfather makes. Also the real cars, ships and televisions that he likes. The old man is dumbstruck by the little Dojin's statement as he bends down, looking down at Dojin's face. Dojin is curious about how will his grandfather react and whether he passed his test or not. The old man speaks up, telling him that he will have to work very hard to achieve it by facing difficult situations to achieve the real things. So, he proposes a deal to little Dojin. That if he wants a horse, then the old man will buy it for him if he gets excellent grades in all his subjects for a year. Just a simple request to the best employee of the group who reincarnates as his grandson. The old man asks if he isn't confident in getting good grades, to which Dojin smirks, telling that he can get them. And the healthy battle of getting the real stuff from the old man kicks off. Just then Dojin comes back to his present senses, whereas is asked to follow him by a grown-up kid, who tells them that the old man has told them to play in the playroom. Those scary memories of his death start to roll in front of Dojin's eyes, as he was the guy who had ordered his death in the previous life. Dojin tries to calm down as he isn't Yoon but Dojin in this new life. All the kids get excited about seeing a big horse toy as one rude boy climbs up the horse. Dojin is very annoyed at that rude kid but is brought back to his sense by his elder brother telling him to be patient. This makes him realize that his family is very familiar with this kind of treatment, but Dojin had different plans in his mind. He walks near the rude kid, staring at him, thinking about how he could teach that kid a good lesson. And also make a strong impression on the old man. So he tells the rude boy that it is his horse, and so he tells the rude boy to get down on his toy. The rude kid tries to mess around Dojin, denying him, which makes the other kids laugh around Dojin. So he goes up to the horse and kicks it, making the boy fall from the horse with his legs stuck under the heavy toy. The other kids get away looking for adults as the rude kid is in utter pain. But Dojin calls out to him, telling him never to touch his things ever again. Just then the rude kid's mom arrives and asks about what happened to him, getting to know that Dojin had hurt his leg. This made Dojin's mother very surprised, but the angry woman instantly slaps the young Dojin on his cheeks. She yells at Dojin for hurting her child and yet again gives a tight slap on his other cheek. The angry woman was yet again going to beat Dojin, but his mother intervened in between, protecting Dojin in her arms. She is yelled upon to move aside, but she refuses. Suddenly they hear a chilling voice about the commotion happening in the room. It is the old man who wants to know about the commotion. And before others could reply, he tells them not to stop making a fuss out of it and take her kid to the hospital instead. The old man's heart softened as he sees Dojin's mother still hugging her son while the others move out of the room. He tells Dojin's mother to leave her son alone with him in the room, and she leaves the room after it. The old man questions if it was he who had done that, to which Dojin agreed without hesitation. The old man questions him about his dangerous acts and that too with his older brother. Dojin replies, telling that the horse was his and was a gift from his grandfather. This shocks the grandfather, who questions him yet again. Getting to know that since Dojin's elder brother stole his toy, Dojin intentionally broke the toy down so that no one could enjoy the toy if he was deprived of it. The old man questions his intentions of losing the toy, to which Dojin agrees, instantly waiting for the old man's reaction to his reply. Whoa! The angry old man gives his first smile to Dojin as we get to know that the old man likes people who revenge on people if they are deprived of their stuff by others. The old man tells that he didn't mean to hurt his brother, but as a result he must be punished for his actions. So, he tells Dojin to follow him, and the little Dojin, who was bowing down a second ago, is now giving a devilish smirk. As Dojin enters the room, he is shocked, as that place is the old man's official office where all the real decisions of the group are made. A place where only the head affiliates who lead families and groups can join. Dojin had been a servant of the group for more than a decade, but it was this room that he could never enter until now. As he still can't believe that he came into such an important room. The meeting begins with Dojin made to kneel at one corner of the room. But Dojin seems looking at someone with his intentful gaze. This person is his uncle's eldest son, Jin Yong-jun, who is barely 20 years old. Dojin questions whether it means that his grandfather has already chosen his successor. The old man tells everyone to speak their thoughts about what they think will happen. Someone speaks up, telling that at the end of the term, the person will collapse and won't attack them head on. The old man tells that person to speak clearly. To which he refers to talking about the hardline repression. The old man tells that they cannot assume something out of the blue, or is he saying that because of his military input, to which that person agrees. Dojin gets to know that they are talking about the political affairs of the country. The current situation flames the anger of the common people, and if these things continue, then deploying the army will only fuel this fire. The old man yells at the officials, asking them about what are they trying to tell him and whether they even have any certainty about where the next president would come from. The officials try beating around the bush, but the old man had enough as he slams his fist on the table. He is boiling with rage as they are simply wasting his time trying to cook up stories, to which they apologize. The old man calls out the vice chairman and asks him about which presidential candidate should he choose to back up in the elections. This makes the vice chairman completely frightened of his future in the group. He speaks up some garbage in front of the old man, to which everyone present there agrees to save their ass. Dojin knows that it is very strange, since in the next 3 days the president of the country would declare surrender, and the group doesn't know about the profiles made by the Blue House. The old man instructs everyone to gather more information regarding the matter and then tells them to vacate the room. Then the old man tells Dojin to stand up, and he turns all cheerful towards Dojin sitting at his chair. He tells that he is proud of Dojin, as it was quite a long time, but he sat there without complaining, bearing all the pain that even adults would not be able to bear. Meanwhile, Dojin was so busy listening to their conversations that he didn't realize the time flying by so quickly. But the old man is curious as to how did Dojin change so much all of a sudden. Dojin gets bold all of a sudden, telling that he doesn't want to just tolerate it anymore, to which the old man is surprised, asking for clarity of words. Dojin tells that he just tolerated it since his parents were being treated wrongfully, and now he is so angry that he cannot just sit and tolerate it. Dojin thinks of shedding a few tears so that it would be more impactful, but he is taken aback all of a sudden when his grandfather immediately hugs him, trying to console him. He is stunned by such an unexpected response from his grandfather, who is merciless. And since he is showing compassion towards his grandchild, then he thinks of giving him another shock. So, he directly tells him to befriend all three of them, shocking the old man. The old man separates himself from Dojin and questions him about the means of befriending all three. Dojin cheerfully tells that if the strongest person in the country is the president, then regardless of who becomes the next one, it is better to keep all three of them as his allies. Since all three of them are powerful enough to become the president, and maybe in successive rounds. The chairman is shocked to the core that he could just think about what Dojin said without even uttering a word. Dojin asks if that's not possible for him, to which the chairman gives a wide smile, telling him that it is very much possible, as it is better to have more friends, as he bursts out in a series of loud laughter. He asks if Dojin wants to play outside since he has some work to do, also instructing him to tell Young-jun to see him. Dojin's mission is complete as he walks out of the room, and the chairman immediately picks up the dial to instruct his subordinate to take good care of all the three presidential candidates. He emphasizes taking care of all three and tells us to add his personal message along with it. The old man is just happy that a 10-year-old could say such a praiseworthy thing. Just then Young-jun enters the room. He asks Young-jun about his opinion on the matter, not as a chairman but as his grandfather, so that he can answer comfortably. But Young-jun speaks some nonsense about letting the army intervene and back the current president. The chairman tells that it's enough and he may leave. The old man resting on his chair thinks about Dojin being capable out of all the people he has. We are then shown Dojin and his family traveling back in their car, where his mother asks about what did their father talk about. Getting shocked to know that the old man would take increased care of the kid's studies. His father calls out to Dojin, glaring at him through the rearview mirror, telling him that he won't scold him since he has already received his punishment, and that his grandfather would be sending tutors for them. And if they do not want to, then it's not mandatory. Dojin doesn't need a tutor, but since the instructions are from the chairman, so he couldn't ignore it. So he accepts it. His brother slides closer to Dojin, praising him for doing good work today of making that rude kid Kang Jun cry. This made him realize that even his elder brother had also faced a lot during this time. It is 29th of June 1987. The ruling president of the country of Korea surrendered to his duties due to the uprooting of massive protests by the citizens of the country. So the race for another presidential election started by making Dojin curious as to how will the chairman deal with this new challenge. Dojin was in a car accompanied by a driver as he returned to his house from his school. The worker there informs that his grandfather has already arrived, and they just hear a loud commotion. His mother tells that they never desired the group's share, and her husband also feels the same. The old man is furious as to why they do not want to accept the shares. She tells that she understands that he wants her to assist Dojin in the company's work, but states that her son is just 10 years old and he can do whatever he wants when he becomes an adult. The old man is persistently trying to make her understand the meaning of giving them the shares of the company, and that he is willing to take both of them as his children once again, but they want to kick that opportunity away. But she calmly apologizes to the chairman, stating that they only wish her son to live his life as he wishes to do. This made the chairman boil in rage, evident from his forehead turning red, but he suddenly calmed as he hears Dojin's voice calling out for him. He gets all cheerful, greeting Dojin as he lifts him in the air, greeting his grandson. Dojin is touched by his mother, who dared to speak a word in front of his grandfather for his sake. He asks his grandpa if he was angry, to which his grandfather denies, stating that he just has a loud voice and nothing else. His mother also steps in, trying to support his grandfather's words and clearing the misunderstanding. He tells them that they need not argue because of him catching them off guard. He states that he plans to live like a normal kid till he becomes an adult, supporting his mother's words. The old man could only grind his teeth in despair as his plan to get Dojin for the company fails. But with a cheerful smile, Dojin tells that he wants to be the chairman of a big company like his grandfather when he grows up, which catches the old man's immediate attention. The old man is very pleased. He chuckles, telling him how could Dojin resist his bloodline in the end. He turns around to Dojin's mother, calling her his daughter-in-law, asking if she has anything else to say, as even Dojin also has the dream of becoming an executive. His mother's eye gets filled with tears, but she tries to take a leave, telling him that she will bring another cup of tea for him. However, Dojin notices his mother's teary eyes, thinking whether it was because his grandfather called her his daughter, accepting them as his family. Dojin and his grandfather are in Dojin's room, and his grandfather asks him about what he said to Dojin a few days ago about making 3 more friends. Dojin remembers that is the reason why his grandfather has come to find him out. The old man gets straight to business, telling that he sent gifts to all 3 friends of his to make them close friends. But the situation has now changed a bit strangely, as they have started to fight amongst each other by grouping up against the first one. So, now he can just choose one person. Dojin interrupts the old man, asking if he is talking about the people who are running for the presidential elections. The old man agrees as all three want to become the president. Dojin asks if the second and third candidates become the president and vice president. To which the old man replies stating that there is no vice president for the country. Dojin simply tells that then why would the second and third join hands if only one of them could become the president? The old man couldn't understand why would they not join hands. So Dojin explains that the third candidate won't gain anything if he helps the second and vice versa. So everyone might help the first one to win rather than the second or third who will not cooperate. The old man is simply stunned at Dojin's crazy analysis. Behind the scenes, Dojin knows about the future but doesn't want to reveal everything outright. Everyone in the group had their doubts about the unification, but it was only Dojin who outright denied the unification. It was possible to think this way, but Dojin was able to see through human greed at its core, which led the old man to pat his head once again, asking him how could he be so intelligent. A little later Dojin is traveling in a car as he tells that he wants to visit the Dangjin area on the west coast by making an excuse of studying. But he was rather standing in front of the shop he used to live before his reincarnation. He is puzzled as to what would he speak if he meets his mom and dad, but suddenly sees his mom and dad through the shop's window. Dojin gets emotional as his eyes dwell up tears seeing his mom and dad, but he wipes it off since both of them are alive. His mom approaches him asking if there is something wrong, and just then his father approaches them, getting to know that a child was crying outside their house. They ask if he is lost, but Dojin tells them that he came to find his friend's house named Hyunwoo. The couple denies knowing anyone living in that area and whether they should ask their daughter Heinji about it. This means that his former self doesn't exist any longer in this world. The results of the presidential elections got declared and we see the old man looking at the morning newspaper knowing what Dojin said was right. A few months ago the current government in Korea fell and large companies started courting the second candidate for the post. But the old man didn't believe in the unification of the second and the third candidate. And after listening to Dojin's words, the old man went all in for the first candidate in the presidential election. And to think that Dojin's idea would become such a big help to the company made the old man really happy. Back at Dojin's house he is sitting looking over the morning newspaper knowing the outcome of the presidential elections. And also knows that he cannot let his guard down. Since his family which should have borne him now has a daughter, then the details in the future events can also change if played too much with. But he suddenly realizes that he has already altered the future since the old man has now grown liking to little Dojin. Before he turns 20, he must find a foundation to swallow up the Sun Yang group. Since in 10 years the old man will be hospitalized with everyone waiting for his death. And before that happens he must move as much shares to his father so that they can put a fight for power against Jin Yoongi. Also he has to prevent his own death before his 20th birthday from a fatal car crash. However, Dojin is more stressed as he cannot recall any useful detail about the car crash. So the first priority for Dojin is to avoid his own death, and if he helps Jin Yang Chul, maybe he can live a little longer. Just then his mother enters his room telling him that it's time for the appointment. No matter how much he worries about his situation, he has no definite answer, besides living every day and considering his actions and consequences. We are shown the Grand Group Company Hotel where the old man is cheerful as Dojin arrives there to greet his grandfather. The old man tells Dojin to sit for a while. This makes Dojin think if the old man wants a conversation without any eyes on them. And he was right, since they have been keeping an eye on the news and the old man must be delighted at the results. So Dojin starts his act asking if something good happened. This makes the old man remember when the old man had supported the top presidential candidate who feels indebted to him for his support. The old man gives a soft smile as he agrees, telling that as a result he would buy him any toy he wants. But Dojin questions the old man if he knows about his grades. The old man seems to have forgotten his promise. Dojin lets him know that he got the highest grades in all of his subjects, which made the old man even more happy. Who asks him what he wants since it's too late to buy a horse. Seems like Dojin has greater plans as he wanted to use the horse as a pretense to gain greater things. He tells that it's okay since he can't even ride a horse and he can get it after he learns horse riding during winter. He questions that if it's not because of the promise, then why, getting a reply that because of Dojin, the old man's company will be able to become bigger than before. Meaning that the old man would be able to earn even more money. Dojin cunningly questions if that means that the old man will give him greeting things than their actual promise. After a bit of thinking, the old man agrees that he can do it but wants to know what greater things would he want. Dojin tells that they would be needing a pasture to keep the horse in, which is far away from his home. So the old man tells that if Dojin really wants to ride a horse, then they can build another pasture for him. Meanwhile, the cunning Dojin was waiting for the exact moment to occur. The old man continues telling that he will gift Dojin a pasture that he can visit any time. Dojin feels fully elated at the great proposal and hurriedly goes to hug the grandpa, showing his affection to the old man. But the cunning Dojin's plan isn't over yet, as he questions where the pasture will be, finally getting the old man to make a pasture at the place he wants. The old man is surprised about the idea of making a pasture but then bursts out in laughter as he feels proud of Dojin. He tells that within 48 branches of the company, the old man had only purchased 19 companies and he took over the rest of them. The old man's devilish red aura greatly favors Dojin's proposal of making something if he wants. So he calls out to a worker immediately to start the process, telling him to bring a map of the locality and the city of Seoul. The map arrives and we see the old map has spread the map of Seoul. He passes over a marker to Dojin and wants to see how perceptive the little boy is, finally telling Dojin to mark wherever he wants the pasture to be. Dojin wanted to make several pastures all over the world, but he starts to look for locations that will significantly rise in value over the next 20 years. He starts to scratch the pen on the map, telling that he wants it there. The old man tells that the place is a bit far from Dojin's horse, but he tells his men to check those places and the condition to get them. After this, he tells Dojin to finish the meal they had started on. Dojin and the old man were having a light conversation when the man arrived, informing the old man that the area is a developing restricted area since the greenery is full of cucumber and melon fields, and that the infrastructure of traffic is quite poor, so it's difficult to travel there and the locality lives there in poverty. So making the pasture shouldn't be a problem then, and instructs the man to find the land they can purchase with at least 50,000 acres of land. Dojin's devil red eye starts to gloom as he has finally achieved his goal. The old man tells Dojin that the land he has chosen is nothing but dirt, and if it was the old man, he wouldn't have bought that land, as it will take a lot of time for that land to build up some worth, finally stating that it's different if it's with Dojin. Dojin gets curious as he wants to know why so, getting to know that in 20 to 30 years the value might be several times, which will be good for him when he grows up. So he can consider that land as saving and keep it with him. Dojin gladly accepts the old man's suggestion, telling that he will keep that in mind. But back in his mind, Dojin has no thoughts about holding it for that long, since in just 2 years that place will become a new city. And with 50,000 acres of land, the newly built city will all be in his hands. We only request you like this video and comment something good to appreciate our work.
I've been stuck in my ways, stuck in my ways, stuck in my ways. Smoke a lot of haze, but it's getting it is, but I will never change. I've been stuck in my ways, stuck in my ways, stuck